Hi there everybody. On today's video I have this Mini 1. This is a 2007 and it's 1.4. Now I'm gonna be changing these gaskets. This is an oil gasket and this is a coolant gasket, the little one, which is this here. Now I've already removed this. This belonged to the oil filter housing. I had an oil leak there and I couldn't film because I didn't have my camera, but I'm basically gonna try to show you what I did to remove that housing. These are quite dry and in really bad condition. This was leaking a lot and it was dripping onto the exhaust, and then it was burning, and then when the fan comes on, all the fumes go towards the back and you can smell everything. So it wasn't the easiest of process. I had to remove quite a lot of bolts. So all my bolts are here, nuts and bolts, and I have to refit this back today because I went to collect the parts today and I've got my camera, and I hope this video will help somebody if you wanna tackle the job yourself. So this is the housing. This is the oil filter housing. The oil filter sits inside of here and the little cup goes in here. So I removed that before removing this. So the oil that's here will go into the engine. Now when you remove this, some water will come out and some oil. So make sure you have a pan, an oil pan or a water pan or something to receive the liquid, so you don't have a mess underneath. So I'm just gonna try to show here the process that I had to carry out this job. Now as far as I'm aware, many people remove the bumper and the exhaust manifold because they are in the way, and obviously removing the bumper and all this area here would give you a lot more room. But I just managed to do it without having to remove everything. Okay, so basically I started by removing this heat shield here. This has got 1, 2, 3 and 4 10mm bolts. These are the ones. One thing I'd like to mention is that I've loosened this frame. I've loosened that frame up just to make my life a little bit easier, because I pull this forwards. It normally sits back a little bit back here, so I moved it forwards here, and basically all you have to do is remove 2 Torx bits, screws from here, and 2 10mm bolts. 1 10mm will go there, another 10mm goes through the headlight bracket here, and there's another 2 13mm bolts up here. That will allow you to move this frame a little bit. I've also loosened the clips here. There's 4 clips, plastic clips. You can just take them out. That gives you a little bit of extra room to maneuver. Anyway, I'll carry on with the bolt. when you loosen those bolts, this will just become loose, and it can be a little bit difficult to get it out, but it will come out. It's just it is a bit flexible, and you need to pull it out. There's no other way. And as we can see, the exhaust manifold is sitting just here. I was going to remove the manifold at some point, until I decided not to. So that's why I undone all these bolts, which I need to retighten them. Now looking down there, before I show you the area down there, there's another heat shield, this one here. That heat shield sits there, and it's just bolted onto the heat shield that is behind this one here. It's bolted. It's got 4 bolts, again 10mm. They are a little bit awkward to access, but you can access them. The ones that sit at the bottom you can access from underneath, and there's one here just at this level that is quite accessible from here. But before you remove that heat shield, you have to remove the oxygen sensor. So there's a tool for this. It's a 22mm open-ended socket, open socket here. That's so it can fit. The wire can sort of go in there, and you can take it out. It was quite tight to undo this. It was very tight. But if the engine is hot, you can undo it easier. The only thing is you have to wait for the car to cool down to carry on your job, because this gets very hot and you can't work in it. You'll just burn yourself. This just unplugs from its socket. Just a clip that clips onto that, and that is just here. Is that socket there? There's 2 of them. The other is for the sensor that is sitting below the cat. Now I've got the cables cable tied to the fan here, but normally they would be they're actually on the housing here. There's supposed to be a little bracket here, and that bracket holds those plugs, but this one was broken and the wires were just hanging, so I had to tie them somewhere. The only way to take this out is to drill it, I guess. Don't really know what happened there. Now, if you are going to tackle this job, it's a good idea to see this has got 1, 2, 3 and 4 bolts holding it. These bolts, and these are 8mm 8mm bolts. Now you can access this one and this one from underneath and this one from the top. It's a little bit hard to see because it's just kind of hiding under this area here, under this heat shield. That's basically where it fits. That's where this comes. This sits in there, like so. And you have your 4 bolts in there. Now, the problem here is the problem that you're gonna face is to try and access that bolt and the one that's sitting just below that. So you have that hole there for one bolt, and there's another hole just there for the other bolt. It's hard to show that one, but it's just sitting there. In there, just behind this. So what I had to do to access those 2 bolts, it's basically the reason you can't access those bolts is because this heat shield here is sitting flat. It's going down here and it is covering the 2 bolts. Now I put something in here and I leave it. I've opened this heat shield basically. I got a crowbar and I opened it. So it is a little bit, it's bent open. I bent it and I opened it. And I will have to bend it back in once I refit everything. And I use this, this is a Swan spanner, an 8mm. Now with this spanner, I was able to access that bolt. It's a little bit hard to see, but I was able to access that bolt there with the Swan and just undo it slowly. It took me a while, of course. The other 8mm bolt that is a bit difficult to get to, I was just about able to access it from moving this heat shield, as you can see, and putting this in there. The bolt is just sitting there, so I was just able to undo it like so. The other bolt is here and the one is just below, as you saw. So that's basically, as I showed you earlier, these are the 2 more complicated ones. This you can access fairly easily. Once you get that off, you can remove the gaskets that are here. You have these little holes here. You can put a little something in there and get the gasket out, because they become brittle as well, and then they break. So I gave this a clean yesterday while I was removing these gaskets. I can see it needs a little bit more of a quick this is just a bit of antifreeze that is gone dry in there. So this is the set for this particular one. 2 gaskets. That's the kit. That's the part number there. 114286433758. Just got it from BMW. And it was £23. Now I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on this. Push that in there. Same on the other one, just grease it up a little bit. That's just gonna help it accommodate itself when we tighten the bolts. Those bolts are very they're delicate, so they don't really require much tightening. Okay, this can only fit one way. Just push that in there. Now I'm gonna refit everything back together, hoping I have enough battery here to be able to show the refitting process. I may have to cut certain parts, but like putting gloves is really not essential. But, right, okay. Also, I've cleaned the wall here, obviously, this area here. But you can also clean the area where you're gonna fit this. And I cleaned that yesterday as well. You can use some emery paper to rub it, or some just wipe it off. Just make sure there's no no bits on the wall where the gasket will sit. Okay, I've also cleaned, I cleaned the bolts and I put some WD-40 on them, so it's easier to screw them a little bit by hand. Okay, we can try to put one of the screws just here. So we just need to line up the holes properly. Okay, that bolt is gone in there. If I can just show it. It's that one there. So it's just that one there. Now I'm gonna now that I've got one in line, I can get the other four in maybe a little bit easier. Okay, that's the other bolt in there. So it just needs to be screwed in now. And the other two are easier to do. So I'm just gonna switch the camera off for now because it's running out of battery. I'm gonna get those in. Okay, I have all four bolts now in there, and just tighten them up really. I had to lift this bit up a little bit. Just had to lift this little bit up a little bit to get to the bolt. That's because when I bend this open here, it pulled this down a little bit and blocked the access to that bolt. Now that's with an 8mm you can just finish tightening this one in. The process is obviously a bit long. Due to the space here. But it's all doable, it just needs a lot of patience. And at the moment I've got the bottom one here as well in. That one's quite... I finished that one. I finished tightening that one. And that one. I don't know if that can be seen, but that's how I'm accessing that bolt there. Okay, and the last one will be this one here. Which again is just a little bit long-winded, but it's gotta be done. So again, I'm gonna quickly switch off the camera to save the battery, but that's just the one I'm tightening now. Okay, so I just want to show how I had the Swan spanner in there. That's the spanner there. That's the spanner there, and it's on the bolt at the bottom. It's just on the bolt, and I tightened that. So I had to get it in. I used this spanner as well, and this part quite a lot to manipulate the way. Okay, all 4 bolts are nice and tight now. Now we basically just need to push this bit back. Okay, sorry about the lack of view there, but that crowbar there, I used the crowbar to push that back in against the bottom of the exhaust. Now, as you can see, unless you open this part, you're not going to be able to get to those 2 bolts. That's why I had to open it. Okay, just straightening that bit a little bit. Now, now we can go ahead and refit this heat shield. So like I said, this heat shield basically, this heat shield bolts onto the heat shield that's behind the exhaust. there's one of the bolts just there. Might be able to just focus on that. That's the bolt which goes onto the heat shield at the back, and that's the hole where the sensor goes, the O2 sensor. Now I just remember that actually before I do that I need to tighten the manifold bolts, because I loosened them all and I'm gonna need the room before fitting that heat shield, so I'll just go ahead and do that. Okay, so I managed to get all the bolts tight on that manifold. Now before I fit the heat shield, I'm just gonna get the cover of the oil filter back in there, just in case, so nothing drops in there. So this just goes back in there, obviously screws back on. Nothing really exceptional about it. Okay, just get in there by hand a little bit and can continue with the other job. So like I said, this heat shield is got 4 bolts. Four 10mm bolts. Which basically tighten on the shield that's at the back. Okay. Okay, I've got one of them in there. The other one is basically just will be sitting just below the oil filter housing. It'll be a little bit hard to see. But you could access it from here as well. Right, so I'll just try to focus on that and show you where that is. So that's the housing, and the bolt is just that one there. The other bolt is just up there basically. So the one is there and the other one is sitting there. Now I'm gonna try to get those two on, and there's another two on the other side which is a lot harder. They're a bit harder to put in, but just have to fiddle with them a bit. Again, I'm just gonna switch this off because the battery is dying. Just having a quick look from underneath. As we can see, there's a, well, I don't know if it's visible, but the exhaust here is with oil, and there's a little drop there, and all this has been dripping from up there, from that region, which comes down from the actual gasket, and this is where the this other bolt is hiding for the heat shield. So that's the bolt I just put in there. That's a 10mm, and that stud there is like a little guide. Now the other bolt is higher up. I'm gonna try to put it in from the top. And so you have two on this side and two on this side, and that will be the four that you have to fit in. You just need a lot of patience, and it is a little bit long-winded, but you can do it. Okay, the heat shield is now nice and tight. Now I'm gonna refit the oxygen sensor. That just goes in that hole. Just get it in by hand, and then if you have the tool, get the tool in there. and maybe an extension. And you can just tighten that sensor. It doesn't have to be really that tight. I'm then just gonna plug that into its relevant socket. Okay, at this point I've tightened the oil filter cap here. Just have it closed now, and now we can refit this cover as well. I realized that I removed four or five bolts out of this, but it actually has more like 6, I think, or so. So I'm not sure where the others are missing, but so basically these go in here. And of course the ones on the sides. Again, I'm just gonna tighten that up, and that part will be done. I'm just gonna switch off the camera again so can save some battery. Yes, so it's just a matter of getting those 10mm bolts in there as well. So you may have 6 rather than I had only 4. Okay, with the heat shields in place, I'm just now refitting all this area here. So like I said, it's 2 13mm bolts at the top here. And same is on the other side, basically on that side, and then we have the forks. I think that's a T30. And what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to run the car, make sure you haven't got any leaks, but you're probably gonna have to top up your coolant, because the coolant coming out when you remove that housing is gonna be from the cylinder head. So we also have these little plastic clips that go in here. It's a few of them, it's 4 of them. So you're gonna have to run the engine and check the coolant and top it up as you need to. Make sure you have the fans on hot inside the car, and make sure you run the car obviously until the coolant, the radiator fan comes on, and you will probably have to recheck your coolant level in the morning. So anyway, I'm sorry I couldn't film from the beginning, but I hope this video helps somehow, and thanks for watching.